What is going on, you guys? Today I have another super quick episode. We're going to be reviewing a podcast episode from the Diary of a CEO where he interviews Esther Perel. The title is Love Expert Reveals Why 80% of Modern Relationships Fail. Let's get into it.
Our relationships, I think we all, certainly I think I have for much of my life. And I say that because I look at my actions. So what I might say is different to how I think I've behaved over the last, 10, 15 years. We see them as kind of an afterthought to everything else in many regards. So the amount of effort I put into my businesses and to the podcast and to every little detail, the creativity, the thought, the brainstorming, all of that, relationships, we kind of all just think they just happen. And if it doesn't happen perfectly, then it's broken and I need to find a new one.
Yeah, that's a terrible way to think. And everybody knows it. If you give the best of yourself at work, if you bring the leftovers home, if when you come home you say, I've given everything I had, now I'm just putting my feet on the table, I just need to chill, I don't want to make any effort, slowly your relationship degrades, period. And then there's all kinds of ways it ends. None of them are particularly joyful. And basically, if people were able to put a little bit of creativity, attention into their relationships as they do with their customers or their guests, relationships would be doing a lot better and my profession would be seeing a lot less people. There's no doubt. And why are people so lazy, so complacent, so unimaginative with their relationships at home? I see so many people when you, like here, you're not taking out your phone. You're looking at me, you're paying attention on occasion, you look for your questions and where we go. But basically, you're with me. But at home, if you do this or this,
looking at my phone,
and then when the person tells you something really important, you go, and you're kind of there but not present. And that's the beginning of a kind of modern loneliness, actually, is that this idea that you can share something really important to someone who is half there. And I think that that's what's happening with a lot of younger people these days, is that they experience a lot of half-there-ness. And that begins to cultivate a real sense of loneliness that has to do not with I'm physically alone, that has to do with, do I matter? Who hears me? Who cares? Who pays attention? Who notices?
So two things there. Well, three things, I guess. The last one is she's absolutely right about that. Like, people want to know you care and that you hear them, like that you actually listen to them, not like, right? Like the example that she gave. Because then it shows like you actually, you care about them, especially if it's someone that you're dating, like a relationship. Long-term relationship, whatever, right? Like even friends, like they want to know that you care, like you're actually listening. And I know what she means. Like, I think we've seen this a lot with people in general. Like, what I would recommend to you if you're used to watching Instagram Reels, TikToks, YouTube Shorts, really short videos, I would recommend that you start making an attempt to watch longer form content. Number one, podcast, longer YouTube videos at the very least, more educational content, right? So it's not like this TikTok brain ooze, right? Just all like the super short term, like that's why, people have a tough time with their attention span because they're like, boom, 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 right? And they're not focusing at all, which is why most people can't make it through like a 20, 30-minute YouTube video, which is kind of nuts, right? Because, and that also implies that probably a lot less people are reading, too. And I hope that if you're watching this, you're reading or you start reading a little bit. If it might help you, try reading as well as accompanying it with an audiobook. So maybe that'll help you maintain your focus and learn. You'll soak up the information in two different ways, so it might be easier for you if you're struggling with focus. And the first thing she said actually is super important too. Like, she didn't necessarily say this directly, but a lot of people, when they date people, the longer that they date them, the more comfortable that they get They kick their feet up after work. Like it's like they're putting all their effort into other areas, but not the relationship. Now, something that a lot of people do is they kind of carry the Netflix and chill phase through their whole relationship, right? So like you get too comfortable, and now it's like, oh, I got the relationship. Like I don't need to do anything else, right? I got the girl. I got the partner. Wrong. Because what needs to happen is you need to keep the spark alive, right? Like you need to continue to date the person that you're with, right? Because if all you're doing is you're chilling at home, watching movies, right, and you're not really doing anything, right? Like that's probably not what you were doing in the beginning. Let's be real here. That's probably not what you were doing at the beginning of the relationship. And no, I'm not saying to always go out on like expensive, extravagant dates. What I'm saying is go do things with your date. And if you have kids, right? Like maybe have one night a week or every 2 weeks where you maybe get a babysitter or someone you know to look after them while you go out on a date with just you two, right? Go do something fun, right? Because this is going to keep things alive, to like show you actually care about each other, and that makes such a huge difference versus like you two always grinding and then Netflix and chilling all the way through your relationship, because that's where you get the dead marriages and things like that,
So
or one way at least.
I sometimes the advice is very banal. It's to tell people, put your freaking phone down. Take an hour and put your phone down.
But I'm busy.
Huh?
But I'm busy.
Well, you will be busy and there won't be a relationship. Sooner or later, there won't be a relationship. It's not difficult. You can wait for the kids to grow up if there are kids involved, things like that. But in the end, there isn't.
Just because someone was on their phone?
Well, it's not just on the phone. It's on the phone means I am continuously saying something is more important than you. We come last. We're a cactus. We don't need to be watered. We can survive in a desert. It's called, there's a term I've been using for this that is, I borrow from something else. It's called ambiguous loss. Have you ever heard of this term?
Ambiguous loss?
Yeah.
No.
Ambiguous loss is a term that was developed by a colleague, Pauline Boss, a wonderful psychologist, when she talked about what happens when you have a parent, for example, that has Alzheimer. They are physically present, but they are psychologically gone. They're emotionally absent. And you can't really mourn them because they're still physically there, but you're caught in this in-between, in this ambiguous loss. On the other side, you can have somebody who is deployed, hostage, miscarriage. They are emotionally very present, but they are physically absent. In both cases, it's an ambiguous loss. You can't, are they still there or are they gone? Who knows? When we live with this phone thing, because you've been at work, you've been at the computer, you come home, you think, I'm so happy to finally let go of the computer, you turn on the TV, and then you turn on the phone at the same time. You're watching here, you're watching there, and there's a person next to you. And most likely, they often do the same thing in the end too. And gradually, there is less and less of a thread of conversation, of connection, of joy, of sex, of intimacy, all of what, that becomes ambiguous loss. Somebody is there, but they're not really present. Is there a difference between me and the sofa? It's comfy. It's routine. You sit on me. But comfy and routine do not give us joy or meaning or relevance or connection. And that's what we still seem to want. So it means saying to people, it's actually not very, very complicated. What did people do for centuries? They took walks. That's one of the few times you can't click. So take a walk. Don't sit. Don't try to do,
And by the way, don't take walks with your phone, or keep your phone in your pocket. Just don't take your phone out while you're on your walk with your date or your partner, right? I would recommend not even taking your phone out at all when you go out on a date, whether you've been dating the person for a long time or it's your first date, right? Just don't do it. It shows that you're actually present. You want to have this connection with them, whether you just met them or you've been dating for a long time. It doesn't matter. Whatever your excuse is for it, right? Like, just don't take the phone out, right? Oh, it's okay. It's normal, bro. No. This is how you get the dead relationship, right? And you're killing it, by the way. I've actually seen people talk about this before, and I've actually used it myself in the past on a first date. And it's funny enough, like the girl was like, "Oh, like I didn't even realize I was doing that. Like I'm so sorry." Like basically, she was used to getting on her phone a lot, and so she needed to check something, and then I think she got distracted. So I was like, "Hey, like, do you need to take care of something?" And she's like, "Oh, no, put your phone away." And then maybe a couple minutes later, she accidentally did it again, and I was like, "Hey, like, seems like you're busy. Like maybe there's something that you need to like call somebody or take care of because you've been on your phone a few times." She's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." So this is what I would recommend to you. It's like a simple test, right? Because in that circumstance, she was like apologetic. She actually never did it again afterwards. So it implies like, like oh, she cares, she's listening, versus someone who's like, because you might get the opposite, someone who's like insecure or like, oh, like I'm just checking my phone, like they get defensive, and this is a good clear sign that it's not someone that you want to be on a date with. Which, by the way, especially if it's like the first date or something, you can just be like, hey, actually, like, seems like you got something to take care of, so I'm actually going to head home, and you just pay the bill and leave, right? Because you just have a little bit more self-respect for yourself, because you want someone who wants to be present with you. Simple.
Walk around the block and just be in motion. Then you parallel. It's not face to face; it's side by side, and then you can talk about the day. If you instead of just saying stop, 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 you just said let's go for a walk. It's London, but still you can and let you do half an hour walk. You'll come back to me and you tell me what it will do. But it's amazing how these small interventions that are playful, creative, not digging, change the dynamic of the relationship.
By the way, of course, like you doing that walk with your relationship, like it's long-term partner, especially if you're on a first date or whatever, but in general, right? Like doing that where you're present, no phone, no podcast, no music, right? You're actually like walking together, having a conversation and listening to each other. Actually listening to each other, not the like, like the brain ooze thing. But I actually want to issue like a friendly challenge to you here in general. Like if you're taking a walk on your own, or you have like a moment in your day where normally you would listen to music or a podcast, like let's say you're riding the subway, a train, a bus, driving to work, taking a walk, find a moment where you would normally distract yourself with one of those things. I know it's fun and like you can enjoy like learning from a podcast or listening to some of your favorite music. I just want you to try it once and see what happens. Like a lot of your best ideas are going to come to you from like going on walks with no music and no podcast, right? Or like the car ride, right? Like you actually being able to sit with yourself, because a lot of people aren't willing or able to sit with themselves right now. That's why you see people standing in line, and or if there's like a moment of awkwardness or awkward silence, they pull out their phone, right? So I want to issue a challenge to you to be conscious of that and just try not doing that.
Because she is only pursuing you.
And sometimes they're avoiding a feeling, and that's why they're pulling out the phone a lot.
In part because of how much you are withdrawing. You change, she change. If you want to change the other, change yourself. Once you understood the figure eight and how we create the other, you understand that if you do something else, sooner or later, they do something else too. So if you want to change the other, change you. This is part of the question you asked me, right? What are some of the essentials, understandings of working with relational systems? This is true at work, in companies. This is true in intimate relationships. This is not just for romantic love. This is foundations of relational systems. Feedback loop, it's called in cybernetics.
So many busy couples can feel the spark in their relationship waning away slowly, but work isn't necessarily the first place you look. Like pulling out the phone at dinner isn't necessarily the place people look, because that seems so small. So they aim at bigger things. They'll say, I don't know, something bigger. But do you believe, are you saying that you believe a lot of it, much of it often starts with those small moments of disconnection where the person basically ends up becoming the sofa?
The Gottmans call them bids for connection.
Bids for connection.
Bids. It's the little things. It's the difference between turning towards someone or turning away. When you read something, there's a classic example they give. Do you read something? Do you actually say, hey, did you read this? Let me send you this article. That's a bid for connection. It's not a big declaration, but it says, we're in this together. When I see something that's interesting that I think you would like to read as well, I share it. I'm thinking of you. I know you exist even if I'm not with you.
Do you know what my partner said to me something about a year ago? And it always stayed with me because I thought that's such a strange thing to say. She said to me when we were in conflict resolution, so we were talking about things, she said, you know, when I send you things on Instagram, in Instagram DMs, like I'll be out here now in New York. So she'll if she sees something interesting on Instagram, she sends it to me. She goes, you've stopped acknowledging it. I used to just like double tap on it or make a comment back. She goes, you stopped acknowledging it. And I thought, why does that matter? Why does it, like, you send me something, I watch the funny video, I crack on with my day.
Because it's like when you receive a birthday gift, do you think?
Yeah.
When you buy a birthday gift, is it important to give it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the reason. I mean, how would she know that you watched it if there is no acknowledgement? And the acknowledgement is not about the video or the DM. The acknowledgement is we share something.
Well, it's even worse because it says seen on Instagram. So it says that I've seen it.
Yes, but the seen, that means that I have seen the video. The acknowledgement is we are part of a thread. We're connected. She's absolutely right. So in that sense, when people lose the spark, it is a lot of these small details that people say so much in the beginning. You know, all the positive stuff that people lose, and it's actually only more important with time rather than less important with time. The death of a relationship is when people take each other for granted. And when you stop acknowledging those things, it is part of the mechanisms of taking for granted.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand,
I love that. Because she's kind of talking about like it's not always a big thing. It might lead up to a big thing like snowball, but it's like death of a thousand cuts is the phrase, right? So like lots of little things, like those little bids for connection. Because right, like she or maybe the guy, like you're sharing something with each other. So like the Instagram thing is kind of a funny example, but yeah, I mean she's trying to connect with him, right? So you know, that makes a lot of sense, and it actually goes back to what I mentioned earlier, right? Like you can't stop doing the things that you were doing in the beginning of the dating process that attracted them, because that's why they were attracted to you. Of course, you can grow and become better, but don't become complacent and stop doing those things, right? That's where you get the Netflix and chill couples, and then dead bedroom, dead communication, dead marriage, etc. Right? So like what I'm telling you is, yes, constantly improve, but watch out for those little bits of connection and maintain the relationship, right? You have to be able to maintain it and still continue the excitement, still go out on dates, all these little things. So I hope this episode was helpful for you guys. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. You got this, bro.